Is there such a thing as a perfect home?
No, there never
Why?
will be. Well, here's another kind of maybe a little bit of a tangent. 20 years ago, I built my house. I was the general. Built my house, thought this is the perfect house. 6 months after I've moved in, Craig, I'm finding things that I'm like, man, I would have done this different. I would have done that different.
You
You
like that?
know,
That
I mean,
darn contractor.
I would have built a bigger garage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and honestly, there's things we changed because we thought this will make this house our perfect house. Craig, it's not perfect. It never will be. You know, and that's one thing I tell my clients. Look, as soon as we find something that you like enough to put an offer in on, as soon as we get that offer accepted, let's stop looking because you're always going to find something better. You're always going to find something you like more. And so let's stop chasing our tails and get something that works for you that meets that or checks 99% of your boxes.
That's wise because I do know a lot of agents that literally run around 40, 50, 60 homes. And I would dare wager that 90% of the homes that they've showed their client are adequate, priced in a spot that they're comfortable with. Why are you continuing to look at another 50 or 60 homes? I just don't feel like there's the perfect home. And I also think this, Todd, I think people get emotionally involved where it's got to just feel right. And I've got a lightning bolt come down and tell me this is the place. When the reality is this is not our last home. This is not the home that you're going to buy and live in for the next 30 years and die here and create your kids and whatever the case is. Sometimes you got to look at it more of an investment than just unrealistic expectations, I guess.
This might rub some people wrong. We're not all Brigham Young. We're not going to be told this is the place. You know what I mean? Greg, you have to feel. There are times when some of my clients walk in, they're like, "Okay, this feels like home. Fantastic." Now, if it feels like home, let's make sure it checks your boxes. And then I always say, do not get emotionally attached to this property until we sign the papers, as in the loan docs, everything, right at the very end, settlement. That's when it's okay to fall in love with this house.
Right.
Because there's too many variables that can happen between putting an offer in that's accepted and signing on the dotted line and at settlement.
Cool. Next question.
Okay.
Does it matter who you work with or just, whatever, whoever, wherever, whenever, just, everybody does it. Everybody can do it. Just work with whoever.
So I think it's very important who you work with. I think that.
Is this experience talking? Because you've probably been burned a few times on some deals.
Yes, I definitely have. It is experience talking. There's been times where, quite honestly, I've been on the listing side, and knock on wood, I've never lost anybody's earnest money. Okay. However, there have been a couple times where we have, if for lack of a better term, we've captured earnest money because the other agent wasn't on top of their deadlines and due diligence and things like that. And so and at that point I try to be reasonable. I'm like, look, we don't want to gouge these people. It's not necessarily their fault, but we do want to be compensated for our efforts, the time we've been off the market, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. I mean, they locked up a home for 30 days and didn't close on it. There should be some kind of the client can always sue, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In fact, Craig, before I was a realtor, I had a house in West Valley I was selling, but when I was getting ready to build this one, it went under contract. My wife, Bonnie, and I moved out, and we went to the settlement table, and it was at Sutherland Title, I believe is who it was at that point, where we went, and that's who my realtor recommended. So we went there, we signed. My realtor called me the next day, and she goes, "Hey, they didn't sign." I'm like, "What?" They said they didn't sign. So my wife and I moved back into the house. Mind you, we'd moved out. We moved back into the house. It was, put back on the market. 3 weeks later, the same people put an offer in on the house again.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, So my agent recommended that we up the earnest money because we already captured some earnest money. We upped the earnest money. And so we did. And so we took that offer again, which was kind of crazy, but we did. I mean, we were young. We took that offer again. Craig, we went to settlement again. And they didn't come in and sign again. And I said, "Are you kidding me?" I looked at my agent and said, "What is the next step we can take?" And she said, "We can sue them for non-performance."
Right.
So our agent got a hold of their agent. They went and signed the next day.
Well, of course. I mean, do you know why they were hesitant on
They
signing?
just got cold feet. That we were told by their
Twice?
agent they got
They've
cold feet
lost earnest
twice.
money twice, and they're still
Yes.